Have you ever seen someone completely shut down a TV host with just one sentence? No shouting, no rant, no drama, just pure composure, and the kind of silence that changes the whole room. That's what Cole Palmer did. And what happened next? It wasn't just viral, it became legendary. In this video, we're breaking down the moment a host tried to humiliate Palmer on live TV and ended up embarrassing himself instead. And here's the twist. Palmer didn't even fight back. He just sat there. And what he said? It stunned the host, it shook social media, and it made the football world see Cole Palmer in a whole new light. So if you're into stories where silence hits harder than noise, where presence beats ego, and where the quiet one walks in and owns the room, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, because here we bring you real football stories. Stories that don't just entertain, they stick with you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have said in Palmer's place? And if you've ever been underestimated or proven someone wrong without saying a word, this one's for you. Let's get into it. The lights hit hard in the studio, not because they were bright, but because the tension in the room made everything feel sharper. Cole Palmer sat in the guest chair, calm, still, like he'd done this 100 times. But this wasn't a press conference or a post-match interview. This was different. This was primetime TV. Across from him sat the host, confident, sharp-suited, known for pushing buttons and getting sound bites. The kind of guy who interrupts, smirks, and spins the moment to make himself look clever. Everyone in the room knew what this was. A test. Palmer, young, recently moved from Manchester City to Chelsea, still proving himself, and now sitting under lights, waiting for the first shot to be fired. The cameras rolled. The host leaned forward. Let's get straight into it, Cole. His voice was smooth, but the tone was sharp. You left City, one of the greatest squads in Europe, to become, what? A starter at Chelsea? Or just another number? Palmer didn't blink. The host smiled. I mean, come on, wasn't that a step down? A long pause. No twitch, no smirk. Just Palmer looking directly at him. I wanted to play, he said. Calm, not defensive, not aggressive, just honest. The host leaned back. That wasn't the reaction he expected. He tried again. So you're saying you couldn't make it at City? Palmer tilted his head slightly. No, I'm saying I didn't want to wait. Now the energy shifted. The control was gone from the host's voice. The crowd, silent at first, started murmuring. Online viewers clipped the exchange before the show even ended. The host pushed forward, louder now. But some say you ran, that the pressure at Chelsea might swallow you up. Palmer waited. Then with the same stillness, pressure only exists if you believe it's bigger than you. That line, that moment, silence in the room. And then, a producer backstage whispered, We've just gone viral. Palmer didn't even know, didn't care. He just sat there, legs crossed, fingers interlocked, waiting for the next question. The host suddenly had none. Behind the camera, a sound tech froze mid-adjustment. A lighting assistant mouthed, Whoa. Even the host's co-presenter leaned forward wide-eyed. This wasn't how these interviews went. Usually young players stutter, try to impress, apologize for confidence, but Palmer, he just owned the silence. Not awkward silence, controlled silence. When the segment finally cut to commercial, the host shifted in his seat. Muttered something about editing that part. Palmer stood up slowly, shook his hand, thanked the crew, jacket over his shoulder, quiet as ever, no speech, no swagger. Just presence. By the time he reached the car outside, the clip had already hit 100,000 views, and Cole, he hadn't even checked his phone. The next morning, the clip was everywhere. Palmer hadn't posted it. He didn't need to. Sports accounts, fan pages, and media personalities had already taken over. The moment, that quiet reply about pressure, was looped, captioned, remixed. Cole Palmer, the soft-spoken winger from Wythenshawe, had done something rare. He'd won an interview without raising his voice. At Cobham, the Chelsea squad had seen it. Someone had even projected it onto the training room TV. Pressure only exists if you believe it's bigger than you, echoed through the room. Laughter, nods, banter. "Who wrote that for you, Cole?" joked a teammate. Palmer just smiled. No denial, no claim. That was becoming his thing. Say little, let others do the talking. Elsewhere, things weren't so light. In a media office across town, the show's producers were having a very different morning. The clip had gone viral, yes, but not the way they wanted. Thousands of comments ridiculing the host, threads of how not to conduct an interview, memes comparing Palmer's stillness to chess grandmasters and monks, and then came the breakdowns. Analysts, not of football, but of communication, started posting their takes. Palmer displayed classic power posture, minimal movement, controlled tempo. He made the host fill the silence. That's a veteran move. The host had been exposed, not by aggression, not by argument, but by control. Even rival fans, normally quick to dismiss Chelsea players, were forced to acknowledge it. Can't lie, that was cold. He's not even trying to be viral. That's why it works. One clip stitched Palmer's reply with reactions from other overhyped interviews. The contrast was striking. Back at the training ground, Cole was outside with the ball alone. First touch drills, passing against a wall. The basics. Always the basics. An assistant coach approached, grinning. "You know they're calling it the Palmer pause, yeah?" Cole looked up. "Didn't know that." "It's all over TikTok. You've started something." Palmer shrugged. "Just answered a question." Later that day, a reporter caught him outside the facility. "Cole, quick one. Did you mean to go viral yesterday?" He stopped for a second, thought. "No," he said. "I just said what I meant. That was all." The clip of that moment, just 7 seconds long, went viral too, because now everyone was watching to see what Palmer would do next. But he wasn't chasing the attention. He was training, preparing, letting the world talk while he got sharper. The silence wasn't just louder, it was intentional. The pressure hadn't rattled him, but the ripple effect kept growing. Within 48 hours of the interview, sports radio shows were dissecting Palmer's replies like they were tactics. Podcasts did full segments. Commentators started using the phrase "Palmer levels of composure" during matches. And the host? He was getting roasted. Clips flooded Twitter and YouTube. His raised eyebrow, his smirk fading, the moment he realized Palmer wasn't going to give him what he wanted. He tried to play it off. Released a statement calling it just banter, claimed he and Cole laughed backstage. But no one was buying it. A behind-the-scenes clip leaked. No laughter, no handshakes, just Palmer leaving the set calmly while the host muttered to the producer. "You think we can cut some of that?" Too late. The internet had crowned a winner, and it wasn't him. Palmer hadn't posted, hadn't commented, but he didn't need to. His face was now on TikToks, memes, YouTube shorts, even edit compilations with cold background music, and captions like, "No words, just control." And every time someone clipped the host squirming, Palmer's stillness made it worse. One creator cut together the segment with a drumbeat pause, question, silence, stare, reply. The comments said it all. This is what peak confidence looks like. Never seen someone fold while the other didn't even speak. Host walked into a calm storm. Even rival fans, normally allergic to praise, called it a masterclass. At Chelsea, no one was making a big deal of it, but behind the jokes, the respect was growing. "You showed real calm," one coach told him. "Wasn't trying to," Palmer replied. And that was the difference. He wasn't performing calm, he was calm. A producer from another network reached out. "Cole, would you come on for a live Champions League panel?" He declined. Another offered a short-form YouTube collab. Again, no thanks. His agent asked if he wanted to ride the wave, do something light, controlled. Palmer shook his head. "I've already said what I needed." Some sports psychology accounts picked it up. Palmer's calm wasn't passive, it was powerful. He didn't freeze. He controlled the frame. A teammate said it best. "Don't lose that, yeah? That calm. Most of us fake it." Palmer just nodded. "I'm not faking. Because when your presence speaks for you, silence becomes your signature." And Cole Palmer. He wasn't chasing the moment. The moment was chasing him. The host had faced tough interviews before. Players with egos, managers with tempers, even agents who fought back on air. But this was different, because this time he'd lost control to someone who didn't say much at all, and it was starting to bother him. In the days after the interview, his mentions were chaos. Every clip, every meme, every analysis, it all painted him as rattled. The man who poked too hard and got nothing back but truth. He told his producers, "It's overblown, the kid's just quiet." But the numbers didn't lie. Engagement was up, but so was the mockery. The clip had overtaken the show's usual post-match breakdowns, even celebrity segments. He tried to reframe the moment on his podcast. "You've got to understand, lads. I'm there to press, to ask the uncomfortable stuff. Cole handled it well, but that was the point. We do serious interviews." It didn't land. The comments rolled in fast. "Handled it well? He buried you with 5 words. Mate, he didn't flinch, you panicked. You were pressing, he was chilling. The worst part? Cole hadn't said a single word since. No comment, no tweet, not even a repost. The silence was louder than anything the host could put out. What he hadn't realized in the moment, what was now haunting him on rewatch, was how completely he'd walked into Palmer's space. He had the questions. He had the script. But Palmer had the timing, the stillness, the weight. It was like bringing a loudspeaker to a chess match, only to get checkmated with a glance. Clips of his body language were being broken down now. "See the twitch in his eye?" one video said. "That's where the panic starts. Here's the moment he realizes Palmer isn't going to give him anything." He stopped opening the apps for a while. Even on new episodes, guests brought it up. "That Palmer lad, he handled you, didn't he?" Laughs, nods. He smiled along, but each time it landed like a jab. Palmer hadn't acknowledged him. Not once. No reply, no shade, no cheeky post. Just the clip, still out there, still growing. Meanwhile, Palmer was back in training. That afternoon he did a light press session with Chelsea's media team. "How was the interview the other day?" Palmer shrugged. It was all right. No grudge, no flair, just forward motion. Control in motion. On match day, the host was on the post-game panel. Chelsea scored. Palmer assisted. The commentator shouted, "And there it is again, calm in the chaos." Someone in the studio muttered, "Sounds familiar." The host smiled through it. But inside, he felt it, that name, that presence. Still there, still winning, and all without saying a word. By the end of the week, the clip had passed 10 million views. But it wasn't just football fans watching anymore. Musicians, actors, entrepreneurs, people who had nothing to do with sport, started quoting Cole Palmer. "You don't have to bark to lead. Pressure only exists if you believe it's bigger than you." The quotes spread beyond the pitch, into lecture halls, boardrooms, motivational pages. It had become bigger than football. Palmer's agent was stunned. "I've got brand offers, podcast requests, even a book proposal." Palmer just shook his head. "I play football." And that was it. The more he ignored the noise, the louder it got. A sportswear company mocked up a shirt with the phrase, "Just play football" on it. It sold out in 48 hours. He didn't sign the deal, didn't endorse it, didn't even comment on it. But the silence? That had become part of the brand. The host, meanwhile, was struggling to reclaim the narrative. He tried humor, self-deprecating jokes, tried sarcasm, calling Palmer his spiritual coach. Nothing stuck. People weren't laughing with him. They were laughing at the replay. Even his colleagues on air started treating him differently. Less banter, less confidence in his jabs. He had become the symbol of what happens when provocation fails. A leadership podcast released an episode titled "The Palmer Effect: How to Command a Room Without Saying a Word." Clips of him sitting silently during the interview were now used in classrooms, coaching seminars, even military briefings. It didn't matter that Palmer never meant it to go that far. He had become a case study. At Chelsea, the mood was shifting too. Players who used to banter non-stop in the locker room started watching what they said, not out of fear, but respect. Palmer's presence had changed the rhythm. He wasn't just part of the team anymore, he was setting a tone. In one training session, 2 players started arguing after a heavy challenge. Palmer didn't speak up, didn't intervene. He just took the next pass, moved the ball forward, and kept the drill flowing. The argument stopped. Later that afternoon, a coach pulled him aside. "You know that wasn't just a training drill, right? You settled that." Palmer shrugged. "I just wanted the play to continue." And the message was clear. Cole Palmer didn't need to lead with volume. He led with rhythm, with calm, with consistency. And that kind of presence? It doesn't need headlines. It builds its own gravity, one that draws everything toward it, without trying at all. The media loved comebacks, they lived for drama. But this wasn't that. Cole Palmer didn't storm out of City. He didn't explode onto the Chelsea scene. He just kept showing up. And now everyone was starting to feel it. It wasn't just the goals, it wasn't even the assists. It was the pattern. Every time pressure built, he didn't rise to meet it. He stayed where he was. Let it come to him. Let it break itself against his calm. In a primetime clash under the lights, Chelsea were trailing at halftime. The pundits were sharpening their takes. He's good, but is he decisive? Moments like these separate the stars from the squad players. Inside the dressing room, voices were low. Palmer sat at his locker, unlaced one boot, drank some water, then he looked up. "Let's move the ball quicker," he said to no one in particular. Not a speech, not a command, just a reminder. The second half, he was everywhere. He didn't score, but he dragged defenders out of position, threaded impossible passes, created movement. Chelsea equalized, then won it late. And when the cameras swung to Palmer, he just jogged back toward midfield, like the job wasn't finished. After the match, the headlines were quiet at first, but the replays told the story. Analysts showed his movement, his spacing, his choices. "He's playing chess while everyone else is sprinting," one pundit said, and the phrase caught on. Chess moves. Palmer pace, ice brain. In the tunnel after the game, a reporter tried to catch him. "Cole, big performance tonight. Was this your response to the critics?" Palmer gave a half smile. "I don't play for critics. I play for my team. Simple, clean, straight down the line." The quote ran on post-match panels and the internet ran with it. At Cobham, younger players started asking to train with him, not because he was flashy, because he was steady. "Can I do passing drills with Cole today?" one academy player asked a coach. The answer was always yes, because training with Palmer didn't just sharpen technique, it sharpened mentality. A week later, the host from the interview went live again. He couldn't avoid it anymore. "I underestimated him. I thought he'd fold," he admitted. He paused. "I folded." But by then, it wasn't about him anymore, because Palmer didn't reply, didn't even flinch. He just kept moving. A week after the big win, something strange happened. The host disappeared from his usual broadcast. No segment, no panel, no podcast promo, nothing. Speculation ran wild. Was he benched? Did he take a break? Did Palmer silence him for good? No one knew. But the silence was deafening. Then one evening he returned, not with his usual crew, not on the flashy set, just him, sitting alone, in front of a neutral grey background, a single camera, no graphics, no jokes. He leaned in, looked straight at the lens. "All right," he said, "let's talk." What followed wasn't defensive, it wasn't polished, it was raw. "I thought I had control of that interview, thought I'd guide the story, push the kid a bit." He paused. "But I was wrong." He admitted it all, that he'd underestimated Palmer, that the silence caught him off guard, that he'd gone looking for a headline and got handed a lesson. "That wasn't just composure," he said. "That was presence. He didn't out-talk me. He outweighted me." For the first time in his career, the host wasn't spinning the moment. He was giving it away. And when the clip dropped, it hit just as hard. Comments filled the feed. "Fair play. Didn't expect this." He finally got it. And while it never matched the original interview's reach, it earned something else. Respect. Not just for Palmer, but for the honesty it pulled out of someone who rarely blinked. Palmer, of course, didn't react. He was already focused on the next match, already in the rhythm of training, film sessions, tactical prep. When asked about the host's apology, he just shrugged. "I didn't need one." That was it. A 7-word response that deflated the drama instantly. Because Cole Palmer never chased closure. He created it. Inside Chelsea's dressing room, it came up again, this time from a veteran. "You know what the mad thing is?" he said to Palmer. "You didn't clap back. You didn't double down. You just let the silence grow legs." Palmer smiled. "It's not a fight if only one person's swinging." That line echoed, in press rooms, in podcasts, in group chats, and while the host returned to his job, a little quieter than before. The message had already landed. Palmer didn't need to correct the story. He had already finished it. The season rolled on. Matches came and went. Headlines shifted. But Cole Palmer's presence, it stayed. He wasn't dominating the news cycle anymore, but he didn't need to. What he'd built over those few weeks had settled into something more permanent. He wasn't just a story, he was a standard. During a high-stakes London derby, Chelsea needed a spark. The match was cagey and fouls, tackles, pressure from the crowd. Palmer didn't shout, didn't gesture, but when the team won a throw deep in the opponent's half, he stepped up. One touch, sharp turn, and a perfectly weighted ball slid through 2 defenders. Assist, goal, lead. He didn't celebrate wildly, just nodded once. Job done. Commentators picked it up immediately. There it is, the Palmer moment. Not loud, not flashy, just clean. The clip did its usual rounds, but this time something changed. People didn't just watch it, they studied it. Angle, weight, vision, timing. He made the difficult look easy, and the easy look invisible. Even fans of rival clubs, the ones who'd mocked the Palmer pause, started paying attention. He's not viral anymore. He's vital. At Cobham, Palmer's influence deepened. Younger players were copying him, not his step-overs, but his silence, the way he moved, the way he didn't react. A new academy player asked him how he stays so focused. Palmer paused. "I just don't let anyone else write the story." The kid nodded. That line stuck. A Chelsea staff member noticed something else. Players weren't just louder or quieter. They were steadier. Music volume dipped, drills tightened, ego faded. "Cole's not performing for the spotlight," one coach said. "He's teaching people how to be comfortable without it." The club posted a short video. Palmer walking into training, headphones on, no words. The caption, "Focused." Thousands of comments poured in. "He's got main character energy. Cole's like a monk in boots. This is what control looks like." And Palmer? He didn't comment, didn't repost, didn't wink at the fans. He just played. After another sharp performance, a reporter asked him about his transformation. "I'm not transforming," he said. "I'm just playing." It wasn't humble, it was honest. And that honesty, it was contagious. Palmer hadn't disappeared from the spotlight. He had just become immune to it, because real presence doesn't demand attention. It earns it and carries it without ever having to ask. It wasn't just fans and pundits taking notice anymore. Inside the Chelsea dressing room, something had shifted. Palmer's name used to come up in passing, usually about his feet, his timing, or his goal involvements. Now, it came up for something deeper. How does he stay that steady? Lad's got no pulse out there. What's he listening to before matches? Meditation? One afternoon, after a light session, a group of players stayed back to watch film. Someone queued up match clips, mostly team breakdowns, but a few were of Palmer, not scoring, not assisting, just positioning, tracking, holding space. The way he moved with and without the ball had become part of Chelsea's tactical language. "He doesn't chase the moment," a coach said. "He lets it arrive." A club psychologist started referencing him in team sessions. "Leadership doesn't always look like shouting," she said. "Sometimes it looks like Cole." That sentence landed harder than expected. Younger players nodded. Veterans didn't argue. Off the pitch, sponsors kept trying. A big brand pitched a high-gloss campaign. Palmer declined. "I don't want a slogan." Another proposed a video ad. Him walking through the streets, crowds parting. Palmer smiled. "I'd rather walk past unnoticed." It wasn't shyness. He wasn't hiding. He was choosing. That week, the Chelsea Foundation asked Palmer to visit a youth program. No cameras, no promo, just presence. He showed up early, stayed longer than expected, talked with the kids, not as a star, but as someone who understood quiet ambition. One young boy asked, "Do you ever get scared?" Palmer thought about it. "Sometimes, but I don't feed it." The boy didn't quite get it, so he added, "Fear doesn't grow unless you talk to it." That quote ended up on a mural inside the youth center, not because Palmer meant it to, but because someone heard it, wrote it down, and passed it on. Even around the club, in hallways, cafeterias, corridors, staff were saying it. "Polite lad, always says thank you." He never makes it about him. And yet, his influence was everywhere, in drills, in team talks, in how others handled pressure. He wasn't captain, didn't wear the armband, but teammates looked to him anyway, not for noise, but for balance. The headlines still came, but now they weren't about drama. They were about presence. "Palmer is becoming Chelsea's quiet spine," one columnist wrote, and for the first time it felt like the football world had finally caught up, not to what Palmer was saying, but to everything he didn't need to say. By the time the season neared its final stretch, there was no more doubt. Cole Palmer wasn't a breakout, he wasn't a surprise, he was essential. The numbers said it, the analysts backed it, but more than anything, his teammates felt it. Chelsea were chasing Champions League qualification. Every match felt like a cup final. Tensions ran high, every decision was scrutinized, and still, Palmer didn't change. No new rituals, no press blitz, no added flair, just calm. Before a crucial away match, the squad trained in near silence. The manager gave final notes. The players nodded. Palmer tied his laces slowly, stood, looked around, then said just 5 words, "Let's stay on our time." No roar, no speech, just tempo. The game kicked off fast. Opponents flying into tackles, fans screaming, chaos on the touchline. And Palmer, he was steady, picked up the rhythm, slowed it when needed, accelerated it when gaps opened. He didn't score, didn't assist, but he controlled it. Every phase, every touch carried weight. In the dressing room afterward, the atmosphere wasn't celebratory, but it was solid. The draw meant progress, and everyone knew who had set the tone. Palmer sat with ice wrapped around one ankle. Quiet, composed. The assistant coach came over. "We don't talk enough about your impact." Palmer looked up. "You don't have to. I feel it." That weekend, a national columnist published a full-page spread. "The player who leads without a sound." It wasn't a puff piece. It was clinical, detailed, sharp. Line by line, it broke down Palmer's intelligence, his ability to slow chaos, to frame space without needing possession. How you only notice him when you realize everything's working and he's in the middle of it. That quote landed, not because it was catchy, but because it was true. At the next home match, when Palmer's name was read out during the lineup, the crowd's roar had changed. It wasn't just applause, it was trust, like they were cheering not for a star, but for a center of gravity. And when the whistle blew, Cole jogged into position. Same calm, same posture. And once again, he let the game catch up to him. It started with a letter. A small envelope, handwritten, no PR packaging, no sponsor branding. Just to Cole Palmer, written in tidy, careful pen. It arrived through the club's general mail, the kind usually filtered, sorted, or replied to by staff. But this one made its way directly to his locker. Someone thought he should see it. Inside, a folded note. No autograph request, no fan art. Just a message from a boy named Isaac. "Dear Cole, I get nervous before football every time. Sometimes I cry in the car. But then my dad said I should be like you, that you don't get loud. You just play. I tried it this week, and I scored. Thank you." Palmer sat with the letter in his hands for a while, didn't say anything, then folded it again, neatly, carefully, and slipped it into his bag. He didn't show it around, didn't post it, didn't text anyone about it. But something shifted. The next morning, during recovery, he kept the letter tucked in his jacket pocket. He moved through stretches, physio, light passing, the usual routine. But every now and then, his hand would brush the paper, just to check it was still there. He didn't need to reread it. He just wanted to keep it close. Later that week, in a training match, a young academy player lost his composure after a missed pass, slapped the ground, swore under his breath. Palmer walked over. Didn't correct him, didn't lecture, just tapped his shoulder. "You've got time." That was it. And the kid stood up straighter. That night, Palmer unfolded the letter again, read it once, then again. He didn't reply, didn't ask staff to contact the sender. He just placed it gently into the corner of his locker, next to his boots, where purpose sits. The next match day, something small changed. In his warm-up, he circled back toward the younger players, offered nods, a quiet word here and there. No cameras, no attention, just presence. And when the match began, he played like always, calm, composed, but this time Isaac was there too, not as pressure, as purpose. The season finale arrived, everything on the line, Champions League qualification, one match, one result. 90 minutes that would decide everything. The pressure was suffocating for everyone else. For Palmer, it was just another game. The stadium was electric. Fans waving scarves, cameras flashing, noise bouncing off the rafters. Palmer didn't look around, didn't scan the crowd. He laced his boots slowly, taped his fingers, sat quietly. The manager gave final instructions. The team huddled, everyone shouting, pumping themselves up. Palmer stood on the edge of the circle, listening. Then, as they broke and he said one thing, "Play like we've already earned it." Kick-off. From the first whistle, the tempo was chaos. Aggression, clashes, early bookings, the ball barely held up. But in the middle of it all was Cole. His first touch killed the noise. He slowed the ball, set the rhythm, shifted space, waited, and then passed, like always. The opponent pressed hard. Tackles flew in, nerves frayed, but Palmer never rushed. He didn't sprint to make a statement. He glided. He didn't scream for the ball. He was where it needed him. Midway through the second half, Chelsea needed clarity. They were being pushed deeper, forced to defend. Palmer dropped into midfield, picked up the ball under pressure, and pivoted away like the pitch belonged to him. 3 touches later, the game opened. Not with a scream, with a whisper. The pass before the assist, the movement that unlocked space. The moment no one else noticed until it was over. Chelsea scored and Palmer didn't celebrate. He just turned, jogged back. One nod to the player who finished it. That was the winning goal. At full time, fans erupted. Players collapsed. Coaches hugged. And Palmer? He walked to the halfway line, looked up into the stands. Somewhere he knew Isaac might be watching, and thousands like him. Quiet kids, doubtful kids, focused kids, kids who saw themselves in the way he moved. In the dressing room, the noise was deafening. But in the corner, Palmer sat with his boots off, one towel around his neck. Someone handed him man of the match. He smiled, took it, set it on the bench beside him. Didn't pose, didn't post. Just sat. A teammate passed by and clapped him on the shoulder. "You've changed this club, you know." Palmer didn't answer. Didn't need to. Because some stories don't finish with fireworks. They finish with stillness.